For the Bloomfield Township Trustees meeting of August 14th, if we could please start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so for tonight, we do have a public hearing later, so I just want to let everyone know that there will be two different public comments tonight. So the general public comment will be now, and then the public comment regarding any of the public hearings later, we will reopen public comment at that time. So if anybody has anything to share, please come on up to the podium, list your name, just go on up and get in line.
Hello, trustees. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name's Alex. I'm a resident in the village. The law of Michigan is clear that a SAD is not an ordinary tax, and to be lawful must raise the marketable value of a property by an amount at least proportionally reasonable to the actual cost of the improvement. In the absence of such a relationship, the special assessment would be akin to the taking of property without due process of law. While pristine roads are desirable, the proposed SAD will not raise the actual marketable value of my family's property by a proportional amount. The courts of Michigan have created tests for assessing the proportionality of a benefit, but speaking in broad terms, increases in marketable value that are less than half of the actual cost of the improvements have historically been found to be unlawful in Michigan. The plain fact is that we have roads and mature street trees. They exist, are usable, and have real economic value. This value is a fact that must be taken into account when determining the true benefit of the new road. For argument's sake, let us say the utility and value of the existing roads and street trees is half of the proposed SAD. By destroying the existing infrastructure and mature trees, subtracting a value of $21,000 and replacing it with a value of $42,000, we've only increased the value of the property by $21,000, an amount that the courts may not find to be proportional to the $42,000 assessment. There's not only legal basis for this argument, but even Michigan Supreme Court precedent in the ruling of Katzben versus the City of Granville, and also in Dixon Road Group versus Novi. Today, and only today, before the SAD assessment roll is confirmed by the Board of Trustees, there is an opportunity for us to come to an amicable agreement on this dispute. An opportunity for my neighbors who wish to move forward with this project, to improve our neighborhood, and my family that asks for justice under the law of the state of Michigan. Chapter 13 of the Michigan Assessor's Training Manual states that the Board of a Township may, at this very meeting here today, direct the assessing officer to amend, correct, or revise the assessment roll. Today I ask you, the Board of Trustees, to direct the assessing officer to give my family justice and assign a proportional benefit to our property, a reduction to 1/2 share. This is an amicable solution that can only be achieved here today. It allows me justice under the laws of Michigan and allows my neighbors who desire to improve our neighborhood to do so. After today, if the roll is certified unamended, an amicable solution will not be possible. The only opportunity for justice will be at the tax tribunal to dismiss the entire SAD, which denies my neighbors the opportunity to improve our neighborhood, or barring this, the appellate courts to assign the cost of the disproportionality to the township at large, which may be unfair to the other residents. I ask you for justice today that we might put this behind us and move on with a better neighborhood. Please direct the assessing officer to amend my family's share on the roll to 1/2 before you confirm it. Please give me relief to this burden of my heart. Relieve my young family of this injury so that we may go forward together with our neighbors and not against them. Please today give my family justice. Thank you for hearing me.
And then just a reminder, if you're here for the road hearing, public hearing is later. You're going to want your comments attached to the public hearing. So he did say we can attach yours, but if this is about the road SAD, please save those for the public comment specific to that public hearing. Anything other than road SAD, come on up now.
My name is Mark Tockley. I am a Precinct 3 delegate in Bloomfield Township. About 2 months ago, we were promised a presentation on the other post-employment benefits and the split from public safety being removed from the town fund. I believe, based on the Milliman actuary reports, that the split was not fair and was not just for public safety. And I hope that we will see the presentation soon. And I also believe the current payments going in are unfair and unjust based on the accrued liabilities in both items. A few years ago, the amount of contribution was reduced to $1.25 million. Public safety's portion was cut in half, while the town fund portion remained the same. I think it would be appropriate for the township to transfer additional funds, which they consistently reduce at the end of the financial year, to public safety, to make that split equitable to public safety. I think our retirees in Blair have earned that retirement benefit, and they should get it. Thank you.
And just a reminder, as we've mentioned, on August 28th will be that presentation so people can better understand the reports. Is there anyone else for general public comment? Okay, so that I will go ahead and close the public comment. Next, we'll come to the board minutes of July 24th. We've all had a chance to look them over. Is there a motion or any changes?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Trustee Murray, support by Trustee Schostak. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. So can I move up? Can we do a motion to move Jeremy up?
Sure, that's what you'd like
So he
to.
doesn't have to sit through the whole process.
No problem.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda, to move item 5 to up to this present spot, which is item 3.
Support.
Motion by Clerk Brook, support by Treasurer Kepes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right. See, we were good to you, so remember us whenever there's any appropriations, anything. So tonight we have
I would have
Senator.
taken slot 5 too.
Tonight we have a legislative update from Senator Jeremy Moss. He's the state senator from the 7th Senate District.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor and board members, and to our audience here. It's great to be here. It's been a little bit of a feverish pace starting this new legislative session now that I serve in the majority. So I've served 2 terms as state representative, not for Bloomfield, but for adjoining areas. And then my first term in the state Senate, I basically had that 696 corridor, and through redistricting, there's now a telegraph corridor. So I kind of went east-west to now north-south. So our new Senate district this term starts at 7 Mile in Detroit and goes up to Sashabaw in Waterford, all the way the length of Telegraph, and of course includes the township here. So I'm very excited. Hit the ground running, had some wonderful meet and greets here in the township, but definitely wanted to make sure that I attended a township meeting, especially because I served on the local Southfield City Council. So I like local government. I appreciate all that you do, and try as much as I can to be kind of a liaison between state government and the local communities here. So starting this legislative session, I was elected by my colleagues to serve as President Pro Tem of the Senate. So essentially, I'm the presiding officer of the Michigan Senate, and in leadership, and have used my experience 9 years in the legislature to kind of craft some of our early policies, which I was very excited. And so on the very first day of session, we introduced our first 6 pieces of legislation, all of which were passed and signed into law, dealing with labor rights and restoring some union rights here in the state of Michigan, providing tax relief. We scrapped the unpopular pension tax, retirement tax. We boosted the earned income tax credit, which was slashed about a decade and a half ago. And then bills dealing with personal freedom. Number 1, we scrapped the 1931 abortion felony law, which was now defunct as of the result of the passage of Proposal 3 last year. And then I had legislation that was signed into law to include sexual orientation and gender identity inside our protected classes in our 50-year Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. So the governor signed that into law into March. And then some other priorities that we were able to get past the finish line in those early days of the session included gun safety, measures, common sense that have been embraced across the country. We strengthened our background checks law here in the state of Michigan. I had a bill in that package. We have a safe storage requirement requiring that a firearm be safely stored in a home that has minors in it. And then we implemented a new extreme risk protection order that other states have used and implemented to head off the next tragedy. If somebody poses a harm to themselves or to others, there is due process before a judge to determine whether or not to separate them from their firearm while they get the help and support that they need. And we passed that law. So very meaningful policy just in the first few months. And then we went into the budget season. And Governor just signed our $70-some billion budget, making investments in our local communities, in our infrastructure, in our schools. I can mention that I'm a Birmingham Groves graduate, which I know touches the township, along with Trustee Murray's son, who was my classmate. And so we're delivering significant investment into our public school system, public safety, public health. So the budget is in effect. Our fiscal year begins October 1st. So you'll be hearing a lot more about those investments as they come rolling out, and I can take questions on that as well. But probably the thing that has kept me the busiest, as Clerk Brook knows, is I also chair the Elections Committee in the House, or in the Senate. And last year, voters passed Proposal 2, which requires legislation to implement it. And it's probably the biggest additional change, the biggest additional avenue to vote that we've implemented in a generation or more. So people can vote at their precinct site on Election Day, and they can vote absentee if that's what they choose. But we have successfully implemented 9 days, at least 9 days of in-person early voting here in the state. So 20 other states have this system, and our local clerk and our county clerk will work together to smoothly implement it here. And we've had many conversations with your clerk, who came to Lansing and testified before our committee, and I've had several Zooms with him to make sure it's all set and right here in Bloomfield. But essentially, there will be early voting locations throughout the county. So you won't necessarily go to your Election Day polling location. The clerk will give you the communication of where your precinct votes. But for 9 days before Election Day, it will serve as a fully staffed and fully functional precinct location, early voting site. You take your ballot, you fill it out on site, and you submit it through the feeder. And it will be tabulated. The results will not be published. But as a result of this change, we're also joining the 38 other states that allow for early processing of absentee ballots. We know that in years past, these counts went up until 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. 38 other states allow for the processing to begin earlier. So with early voting, early processing on absentee ballots, required drop boxes, allowing residents to permanently request an absentee ballot. Just sign an application once and you'll get it mailed to you. We're hoping the results will come in earlier and there's not all of this questioning scrutiny of why our results take so long. We want to lead the nation in election results here. So I was very proud to chair that effort. We brought in local clerks and county clerks and our Secretary of State, and we're able to actually pass this out of the Senate in a bipartisan manner with votes from both sides of the aisle. So it was very meaningful to have that impactful change here on our elections. And so it's kept me busy, but also being here at home at this meeting is important to me. And we have other events that we host throughout the district. The first Monday of the month, I host a coffee hour over at the library with some of our state representatives who represent the district. Representative Steckloff, Representative McDonald came to the last one as well. So I'm out and about, but just wanted to be a presence at the meeting and take any questions. And just, again, serving in my second term in the Senate, but first term representing Bloomfield. But I'm no stranger here and very excited to be at the meeting. So that's kind of what we've been up to for the last 6-7 months.
Great. Does the board have any questions for Senator Moss?
No, just thank you for coming and giving us all the great updates.
Got it.
I want to say thank you too. You have always been accessible to us, and you have definitely been a voice of local control for us, because at the state level they want to pass things, but they forget maybe each community has their own nuances, such as like the short-term rental and some
Yes.
others. So thank you for always being an advocate and listening to each community individually.
Thanks. I served on a city council. I'm very close with those associations, including the Michigan Township Association, which I know the township's very affiliated with. And sometimes Lansing is in a bubble. And we live, breathe, and die based on what our residents back home need. And so I've just really tried to keep local control. Local decisions at the local level are the most important. One size fits all doesn't always cut it. And Bloomfield is a very unique township compared to other townships throughout the state. And I think you should be able to make these decisions on your own. So I don't like Lansing intrusion on local decisions.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Agreed.
And I just also want to thank you and your office and everything you did to support the lack of the removal of the I-75 ramp. Also working with the community on Woodward and Telegraph in terms of the sound and noise and coming to the joint meeting. So it's not just coming tonight. You're here behind the scenes, and we
Yeah.
really appreciate your support.
It was great to work with both of you, with the whole board here,
Yeah.
making sure that was at least intrusive as possible here.
We won.
Yeah, and we won.
All right. Well, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Got it. Thank you.
Have a great
Come
one.
again soon.
I will.
Yeah. So next we'll go to considering the acceptance of the resignation of Treasurer Brian Kepes, effective on the date and time contained in his resignation letter. Did you want to?
I think we need a motion, right?
You do. You do.
Accept it.
Yes. You should say the effective date and the time.
Oh,
you
here's
have
the
the
letter.
letter.
I have the
That's why I
letter.
thought.
August 31st, correct?
So I move that we accept Treasurer Kepes' resignation effective at 5:30 p.m. August 31st, 2023.
Support.
We have a motion by Clerk Brook, support by Trustee Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does.
6-0.
What's that? 6-0, right? Because Brian doesn't.
Exactly.
Just a quick, I know you don't want a lot said. I know Brian is one who isn't fond of all the accolades, and he didn't want a lot said, but I did want to say that you've shown love for this township for many decades, I believe 30 years total. Whether it's serving on the ZBA, the Planning Commission, as a trustee or treasurer, you have put your whole heart into it. Your impact is seen not only in your leadership or the changes you made to investments that helped put us in a better position, even during a global pandemic, but also in the many hours you spent with residents, employees, and board members reaching out to you for advice. You not only made a positive impact on the community, but you're also doing what many athletes and musicians dream of, but simply don't do. You're going out on top. So you're not doing your last call, and you're doing it when you're at literally as high as you can get. So you've been my sounding board when I was working on ideas many times over the last 2.5 years, and that, along with your institutional knowledge, has been a benefit as well. I want to thank you and wish you nothing but good times ahead.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with everyone.
Thank you. Did you want to say anything else?
We'll do the next
All
meeting.
right.
This meeting's about the
All
future,
right.
so we'll let that. And on that basis, I'm going to step down while you decide how to move forward with the
You
position.
can't vote on it?
No.
Oh, that's
And
right.
I'll come back for the rest of the meeting.
Okay. All right. So next we will go to considering the appointment of Trustee Michael Schostak as treasurer, effective immediately upon existence of vacancy, and administer oath of office. So Michael, first of all, would you be interested if the board were to appoint you tonight?
Yes, very humbly.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Yes,
Neil?
as I started speaking about this at our last meeting, very more than comfortable with Michael in position of treasurer. He has the financial background, the knowledge of how different markets work, investment knowledge. But as important as the technical skills that he does have, it's the type of person that he is, that he brings to that position, the position he's brought as trustee, and what he'll bring as treasurer. He's a gentleman, he's respectful, He's able to work. In fact, he enjoys working with people with different opinions and trying to bring them together, but always in a, again, very respectful manner. And he represents the township extremely well. He understands the culture of Bloomfield Township, and of course, how the township works by being a part of the board for the last number of years. So with that said, I am extremely, certainly feel great about you being the next person in line. Sorry to see Brian go, but I'm very comfortable that you'll do an outstanding job in that position.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion?
I agree with everything that Trustee Barnett said. I haven't known Michael as long, but I have really enjoyed working with him. And I think, you know, clearly what Neil said, but also just, you know, he's professional, his demeanor. I know he's got the background. I've really appreciated working with him, and I can't imagine that we have a more qualified candidate or somebody that's able to jump right in on what we need as a township and make it as seamless as possible with Brian retiring.
Yeah, I'll just add, you know, I think an important part that the treasurer has to play is being able to distill financial information and explain it to residents in a way that they can understand. And speaking from personal experience, Trustee Schostak was gracious enough on our first budget vote, my first time around and back in 2020, to go through and explain to me that the way government accounting is very different than business accounting. And I really appreciated that, and can also say that he was able to make me understand it in a way that I did not prior to meeting with him. So I have no doubt that he will serve the township very well and will also serve the residents.
You want to say anything?
You know, just to echo all of that and add one more item, which is, you know, Michael has twice run for election in this community and twice been elected to this board, which is an important, you know, affirmation of you and your skills here, and I think an important factor in addition to the ones that have been mentioned. So I'm comfortable with it, and I'm happy to make a motion if we
I just
need
want to say
one.
one quick thing. So I know Michael and I have grown up on this board together. I always like to say that. And he likes to point out that, as you say, elected, he did get more votes as trustee than I did as trustee. So he was my superior in that. But to what Trustee Fakih said, you have the ability to explain things. For example, we obviously have some people that misunderstand some of the reports, and if there isn't somebody there to help explain the difference of government accounting versus regular, and explain all the Milliman reports, explain all of that, it can escalate. So you'll be able to help bring that in, and I really do appreciate the leadership that I've already seen from you as a trustee. I'm sure it'll just escalate from there.
So I'm happy to make a motion that we appoint Michael Schostak as Bloomfield Township Treasurer, effective immediately upon the existence of a vacancy.
Support.
Which would be 5:31 on
31st.
5:31 p.m. on August 31st.
2023.
Right, so motion by Clerk Brook, support by Trustee Barnett.
One
All
second. On the advice of counsel, I have to abstain from this vote.
Correct.
So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass 5-0.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Now we'll do oath.
You want to join me down here?
Sure.
We'll do it down there.
My husband's going to take some pictures too for you. Yeah.
Perfect. As I've mentioned before many times, this is one of the things I get to do as clerk, and it's a sincere privilege and honor to be able to swear you in as treasurer. And please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Michael Schostak,
I, Michael Schostak,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
and I will support the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and I will support the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and I will faithfully discharge my duties
and I will faithfully discharge my
as
duties
treasurer,
as treasurer,
effective at 5:31 p.m. on August 31st,
5:31 p.m., August 31st, for the
2023.
Township of Bloomfield,
2023,
2023,
for the Charter Township of Bloomfield,
Charter Township of Bloomfield,
to the best of my
to
ability.
the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
I'm going to introduce some of your supporters here. tonight.
Sure.
Especially two of my favorites.
Sure. So, sitting here in the first row, my daughter Haley, my son Benji.
Very shy.
They've been with me since my first campaign in 2016, holding signs out in front of the polling places. So I think Benji was not even tall enough to be over the sign, but we appreciate that. My parents, Lee and Lillian Schostak, and my future wife, Debbie.
Glad to hear you made it official.
Yes.
You slid that right in there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm sorry. We'll public hearing. This is sorry.
I just wanted to make a comment. That's all.
Sorry. All right. So now that we have the oath, is that one done?
Yes, it is.
All right. So next we will go on to presenting a proclamation to declare September. Do you want to do a
We're gonna
quick
make a
before they leave? Do you
No,
want to do
it's
a quick
fine.
photo?
We took pictures.
You
That's
should
right.
from before.
That's right. Actually, I did want to make a motion to amend the agenda a second time.
Oh.
Which would be to consider the process by which we would replace the vacant trustee position.
Okay. So we have a motion by Clerk Brook.
Support.
Support by Trustee Fakih. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass.
So
he still
Dirk,
have
you've
to
got
stay
some
down?
legal
Sure.
information?
Yes,
You-
Brian could come back if he wants, but he,
Yeah.
yeah, you can.
Well, you'd be
on-
voting on the trustee,
on the-
wouldn't he?
No,
Oh, he can't vote on the trustee.
no, and neither can Michael. But
I
in
thought only
terms,
Michael couldn't.
in
Okay.
terms of the process, though, that's a different issue.
Okay.
So, and you don't necessarily have to have a vote. So there, the statute is clear that when a township official resigns or or a position becomes vacant as an operation of law, which is what happens in this case, because on August 31st at 5:31 p.m., Michael will become the new treasurer. So by operation of law, there will be a vacancy on the township board. You'll be one board member short. So MCL 168.370 provides that the township board has 45 days from the vacancy to make an appointment of the new trustee. And the statute gives you a lot of leeway. They don't require, if everybody knows who you want to be the new appointment, you can make that appointment within that 45-day period. Another option is to accept applications or resumes of potential candidates that want to be considered for the spot. You can have interviews if you want. None of those things are optional. The one thing you have to do, and one thing you should do, is within that 45-day period, appoint the new member. If you don't do that, then that same state law requires a special election. And the special election, the candidates for the special election are established by the county party committee for each political party in the county submits a nominee to fill the vacancy. So if you had 5 political parties in Bloomfield Township, and there's a vacancy in the township board that doesn't get filled within the 45-day period by the township board, then you lose the ability to pick the candidates, and those candidates are actually picked by the Democratic Party in Bloomfield Township, the Republican Party in Bloomfield Township, and whatever other parties Bloomfield Township are present. And then the special election is held. So obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, it is generally the preferred method to make sure you make that appointment within 45 days. 45 days from the vacancy in this case would be October 15th, which would give October 9th, 2023 as the last regular board meeting that you could make that appointment within the 45-day period. Certainly, if you wanted to have a special meeting in between October 9th and October 15th, you could do that. But if you were trying the last regular meeting that you could make the appointment would be October 9th. Nothing prevents you from making it earlier than that, if there's some consensus in terms of who the nominee might be. But October 9th would really be the latest time you could do it, although statutorily you would have until October 15th to make that appointment. So the process is up to the township board how it wants to do it, and like I say, the statute is silent on the process, so you've got options.
So if you do a special election, the county parties pick it, but if we were to open it up for applications, people from the community could apply and pick from that.
Provided that appointment is made by October 15th, correct?
Do you want to go ahead and present?
Sure, I could talk a little bit about how we've done it in the past. So I spent some time with my deputy looking at the past 20 years, and there have been 3 vacancies for trustees. In each of those instances, the township board selected to post the position, to allow individuals to apply to be a trustee, to ask them to submit a resume and a letter of interest, and then answer questions that were presented by the township board to each person. That resulted in the filling of 3 vacancies in the past 20 years. The last one was 2011, and I think that's I recommend that we continue on that process. And in preparation for a discussion, if we went that way, I pulled up the questions that were used the last vacancy, updated them a little bit for today's, dates and things, and have presented it here for the folks to look at, us here on the table. Also, I passed out the same document, a hard copy. What we would do if we were to go ahead and do this approach would also include the communication of this, a plan to make sure that folks knew about it widely. Would include a press release. We could do a posting on our township website, social media postings, an e-newsletter posting, several e-newsletter postings. And then we, as a board, could discuss about the date, the timeline, when to return these, and when we'd want to consider the individuals. One thing that hasn't been done in the past, but I know has been done in other places, is that the candidates, in addition to their written submission to questions and their resume and cover letter, could be invited to come to the township board meeting where we considered them, and given a period of time, maybe 3 minutes, to introduce themselves and say anything about their candidacy that they'd like to say. That might be a good additional feature to add if the board wants to do so.
I want to start with discussion.
I could add one other thing, which is again about the special election idea you've mentioned, and certainly I'm the clerk, so I run elections. I like to run elections, but this special election would be like no election we've ever seen. It's people are not able to self-select to run for office. We get instead candidates selected by people who are not necessarily residents, who necessarily know who we are or what we stand for, or have our interests in mind, and may instead have party interests in mind. This is first and foremost a customer service business, and I'm not comfortable in that type of election environment. For replacing folks, and that's what the statute requires. I think all of us would like to, potentially have a regular election for these kinds of things, but we're denied that by state law. Senator Moss is still here, so we're constrained from doing what many people in the public may want us to do, which is let's have an election, but it's not like any election anyone's ever seen before. So I don't like that approach and would prefer an application process.
Martin, I agree with you 100%. And on top of that, it's the expense is secondary, although it's significant. But it's more important that we have people who represent the township, who live here, who know us, and not having parties making decisions where that I've alluded to in the past. And about, I think, 2011 that happened. They made the attempt to do that. And it was certainly not in the best interest of Bloomfield Township. So in addition to that, a special election is going to cost well over $100,000, and that's money that does not need to be spent when we have an election coming up a little over a year anyway. So I'm in 100% agreement with you, and I like your idea of giving candidates an opportunity to maybe have 3 minutes to make a presentation, and so we can actually see them.
So I agree with what you're proposing and with what Trustee Barnett said. And someone was asking me recently, well, how would this go? And this is obviously my first time experiencing it, but the thing that we're not allowed to do is to, like what typical election, we'd have a primary of people that wanted to run and that were part of the township, and the voters would have their right to say, but we're not allowed to do that. So I think it would be unfortunate if we let this drag out the 45 days, because I don't think that's in the best interest. I definitely like your idea to have a chance to meet the people, because That's usually what we do before elections, or we try and meet them or get to know more about them than what's on a piece of paper. I would be totally supportive of however you want to set that up, if it's a special evening or whatever. So thank you.
I'll just add, I agree with what's been said so far. I do think it's important to cast a wide net. I remember recently when we were filling positions for the zoning board, we had several applicants and many, many qualified applicants. And my hope would be that we would see the same thing for filling the role of trustee. And I'm looking forward to residents learning about this and hopefully applying.
And you're right, we had, I think, 11 or so apply. In fact, I had other supervisors calling, asking, how on earth do you have such an engaged community? Because they usually are begging people to fill seats, and here we are having these wonderful people applying. I would guess we get at least that much, if not more. I personally like that position as well, because although we are technically partisan as townships, we are essentially a nonpartisan board. We're a split board, and you'd never know it. You wouldn't realize there's 4 and 3 up here, because we all think about the township on a nonpartisan level. So bringing the county parties into our little utopia kind of puts me on to agreeing a lot of this, where I think you're 100% right. We should open it up to let all the community promoting it the way you said. And then I do love the idea of coming in person. It gives that overall experience, where somebody might be great on paper and not in person, or vice versa. It really gets you a chance to see them as a whole person, not just paper.
Cool. So from a timeline perspective, we know that we could get this out tomorrow, perhaps, or the next day at the latest. And we need a deadline for when this would come back, and that kind of relates to when we might want to do this. We're coming up soon to, Labor Day weekend, and this is also a very busy holiday vacation season. I know I'm going to be taking a week's vacation next little while. So, we could, given the timeline that Attorney Beckerleck mentioned, we could have the 2nd September meeting as a date we look to consider the applicants, invite them to speak, and then ask them to present their documents to us by the Wednesday prior to that meeting. I think those dates, are those the 20th, Wednesday the 20th of September?
I know there's a funny one, not a funny one, but
Oh,
there's
and this is actually, we're doing this meeting on Tuesday, aren't
Would be the 6th.
there's a Tuesday meeting, and I just don't
Yes.
remember.
we? It's the second one. is the
26th,
Tuesday
September 26th. It's my husband's birthday, so I know where I'm going to be.
meeting.
It's
Yeah,
the
it's
26th
September
because of the holiday.
26th.
September
Yeah.
26th is
Because
the
of Yom Kippur.
Yes.
And the prior Wednesday is the 20th?
Yes.
Yes, so, yes, the prior Wednesday is the 20th,
Yeah.
and then for applications, are you thinking the 6th?
No,
Or you're
the
thinking?
20th, because then we would get it in the packet for the 26th. Now, the 6th we could do, certainly, that's worth discussing, because it's just the 6th is right after Labor Day weekend. We're going to have 2 weeks of people on vacations, and
Okay.
if we want to cast a wide net, I do,
Go
as
longer.
was mentioned, we could give them a little more time.
Yeah, I think we should give more time.
Okay, so not the 6th, we'd say the
Because
deadline
we're
is the
still on
20th.
summer.
Yes, the
Right.
deadline should be September 20th.
Okay. Then we'll put the folks that applied in their materials in the packet for the board meeting that would occur on Tuesday, September 26th.
Would that be when they can come in person and
Yes.
on the
Because they
26th?
would have already submitted all of, and you would hope that,
That makes
knowing that
sense.
they've already applied and given all of this, it would be more of a who they are more than just what they've already filled out on paper.
That's a good timeline, too, because you still have one extra meeting after
case
that.
you don't
if you
decide.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I like having a backup.
right.
Good.
So do we
Okay.
have, do we want to vote on it tonight?
You can make a motion
Or
to
do
that
we
effect.
just have consensus and we can just do it?
Consensus is sufficient. You don't need a motion.
Any objections to the plan we just discussed, the timeline?
You give your marching orders?
I do.
All right.
Oh, any changes to the questions that we'd ask the candidates to answer in writing?
I think you did a great job, and thank you to you and your team for compiling that.
Thank you.
All right.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, so next we will go on to the presentation of a proclamation to declare September 2023 as National Senior Center Month. And we have Director Christine Tvaroha here from our Senior Center.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, good evening.
So tonight, our goal is to highlight opportunities and to spark interest. It's nice to have a big crowd, actually. September is National Senior Center Month, and this year's theme is Discover Yours. It encourages exploring new activities, hobbies, experiences, and passions. It emphasizes visiting new places and meeting new people. So our center is a vital community hub that connects people to each other and to valuable services that promote vitality, community, and independence. The National Council on Aging recently shared this. Research shows that compared with their peers, people who attend senior centers have higher levels of health, social interaction, and life satisfaction. Before we get started on the celebrations, I have a little bit of data to share with you. So the way that we track what I would say new customers is through profiles. Anytime someone engages with us for the first time, a profile is created in our registration database. I'm happy to report that new profiles from January through June of 2023 grew 50% over the same period the previous year. We've drawn 203 new customers in the first half of the year and expect the trend to continue. In May, we had 22 days of operations and enrolled 40 new people. They were literally walking in every day to register, so it was very exciting. The pie chart is interesting. It breaks out new customers by decade, and with each having good representation, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, but it is clear that most customers that are joining are in their 60s and 70s. Next, regarding attendance, you may recall we reopened June of 2021 and attendance was very low, but it has been steadily increasing. The average monthly attendance in 2022 was 46% higher than the same period 2021, and currently we are showing an additional 31% increase over last year's attendance as people become more comfortable in group settings and we continue to gain new customers. On to the celebrations. We have a couple of new programs that I wanted to highlight. We're going to kick off Senior Center Month with a fitness demonstration. And there are 6 group exercise programs that are complimentary for residents who are 50 years or better. Our fitness coordinator will also be presenting the benefits of exercise and how to select classes based on individual goals. We're also extremely thrilled to offer a brand new program for people who are experiencing memory challenges and their care partners. The Companion Cafe will be held monthly with the first meeting on September 6th, and there'll be a range of activities, including refreshments and pet therapy and a number of other great art therapy things that people will be doing during that 2-hour period. So it's a little bit of respite and a lot of enjoyment, we hope, for people in those family situations. We're very grateful to the Bloomfield Hills Rotary Club as they provided us with a grant to get this program started. Now moving on to official celebrations. The week of September 11th through the 15th, we have 3 live musical performances with a little bit of comedy and trivia thrown in. We're also hosting a barbecue fundraiser, and the barbecue is open to all people of all ages, and has a grab-and-go option too. It'll be a pretty lively week, and we're very excited, and it will be a terrific time for people to visit the center, especially those who have never been. Finally, 2 more slides. The catalog is something that is mailed to every registered voter over the age of 50, as that's when the eligibility starts. So I encourage people to go through it. Just a little sampling of what we have: 22 day trips offered, 45 fitness classes weekly. We have our flu shot clinic, beginning bridge class, Medicare counseling. That's really important for anyone getting near that 65 birthday. 12 unique topic presentations, one including a representative from the Michigan craft brewing industry. That's going to be my favorite one, I think. Blood pressure screening, caregiver support group, housing tours, and a course of fall prevention classes. So that's a little bit of what's being offered, and so I encourage people to look through the catalog. It was just released last week, and registration is open now. Got off track. Every center is unique, and this month we encourage people to delve into how our programs might align with their needs and interests, and we certainly hope that they find or discover more ways to elevate aging well. So, thank you.
Thank
Do you have questions?
Any questions for Director? Thank you for everything you do over there.
Oh, it's a team
wonderful
effort.
Facility.
It's a team effort, so I would like to actually say thank you to Ruth Furkatich. She's our Deputy Director. She's been with our program since 2009 and had multiple promotions coming up through Adult Day Service. She has great expertise with Friendship Club and people living with dementia. Also moved into the general side of Bloomfield Township Senior Services. She was our office manager for 4 years and then now has been the deputy for 2 years. It was just her 2-year anniversary of her promotion. So I'm grateful for everything that she does, and I would not be able to do what I do without her. So I should also say shout out to Katie, but we'll hold
Do
that.
you want to go ahead and announce that?
I can. I'm happy to.
I think it's good news to retain an employee.
It is great news. So she didn't know, and I didn't know, but I'm super happy that Katie Fatherby, who has been with the township for 18 years and has been a leader in public services for the last 12, has decided to come and join our team. And to help Ruth and I, the three of us will work very well together. She's going to bring a lot of experience from the township, but also a new way of looking at things. So we're super excited about that. And then also, as we think about succession planning in the future and the success over the next 20 years, which I'm not going to be here. Ruth is not going to be here in 20 years. So it's really nice to think about having a younger yet highly experienced and effective professional join the team. So thank you, Katie, for coming on board.
And we're blessed when you have somebody who's been here. When you have somebody who's been here for 18 years, and she is amazing at all that she does. When she's reached that point where it's time to learn new things, we're lucky to have so many different departments that people can switch to. So this is a sign of being able to keep someone we love here too.
Yeah.
So you're going to be well loved in many areas. Thank you. And
Okay.
thank you, Ruth. Congratulations on your anniversary.
Is there someone else special you want to introduce? Go ahead.
There sure is. So my mother, Nancy Carvey, is here. She's visiting from Tampa. She's the little teeny lady in the back. And she definitely lived a life of community service, and I'm sure that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. You know, it's great to see the numbers coming up too. That was a great report. And you've got all these great things in September, and October 1st is our Township Open House. So it's going to lead right into that.
She'll be coming back pretty soon with all of the grants.
Block grant
that she's
and
been
ARPA.
coming at.
Yep, we have $150,000 for you to decide
The
how to
county.
spend.
Yeah, additional to our ARPA.
Yeah.
Through the county, she'll be receiving some county funds.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thank
Okay.
you.
And we have
Thanks.
we have a proclamation to read
Yes.
as well. So
Yeah.
I will go ahead and do
Oh,
that.
oh, thank you.
For recognizing National Senior Center Month, September 2023 in the township here of Bloomfield. Whereas older Americans are significant members of our society, investing their wisdom and experience to help enrich and strengthen our community. And whereas the Bloomfield Township Senior Services has acted as a catalyst for mobilizing the creativity, energy, vitality, and commitment of the older residents of Bloomfield Township. And whereas through the wide array of services, programs, and activities, Bloomfield Township Senior Services empowers older citizens of Bloomfield Township to invest in their own health and well-being, and the health and well-being of their fellow citizens of all ages. And whereas during the pandemic, Bloomfield Township Senior Services has been a community partner in ensuring that our most valuable, vulnerable citizens, people aged 65 and older, many with underlying medical conditions, are cared for and able to stay connected, safe, and healthy. And whereas the Bloomfield Township Senior Services affirms the dignity, self-worth, and independence of older persons by supporting their decisions and actions, tapping their experiences, skills, and knowledge, and enabling their continued contributions to the community. Now therefore be it resolved that the Bloomfield Township Board of Trustees hereby proclaims September 2023 is National Senior Center Month, and we call upon all citizens to recognize the special contributions of the Senior Center participants and the special efforts of the staff and volunteers who work every day to enhance the well-being of the older citizens of our community.
Thank you.
No,
No vote. Do we have
We do
a-
vote.
You do vote. Yeah. May I have a motion to accept the proclamation?
So moved.
Moved by
Support.
Trustee Barnett, support by Trustee Shostak. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
And thank you to the senior center, too.
So now we move on to the public hearing of necessity for the Bloomfield Village Special Assessment District, SAD number 426. This is project phase 2. We'll start with the presentation, then we're going to open up public comment, and everybody can come on up, and at that time, just give us your name, address, and your information. And you can come up again if you'd like. So today we have Jen Werthman and Director Darren Kratz, who it is his birthday today.
I'm so
He can
excited.
now go to the senior center. He's 50.
Man, I got gray hair.
Another new member coming your way, Christine.
I've got the right one. No. You're not telling me how.
We've got two presentations for you guys tonight. It's a little deceiving. We're going to start with phase 2, which is our first one that we brought to you guys last month. And then we'll move on to phase 1. Phase 2 is our first public hearing, though. So this is going to be Bloomfield Village Phase 2 Road SAD Proposed Road Paving Project, Special Assessment District number 426, Public Hearing of Necessity. This district includes part of Judson Bradway's Bloomfield Village, number 2, Judson Bradway's Bloomfield Village, number 4, Judson Bradway Bloomfield Village, number 6, Judson Bradway Bloomfield Village, number 8, and part of Judson Bradway Bloomfield Village, number 9. This is just the map showing this is, we kind of started calling it Blue Phase, and then we've kind of moved into calling it Phase 2. But this is the map of the included district. The district includes 2.6 miles of public roads, including Ardmore Drive, Burning Bush Road, Glengarry Circle West, Half Moon Road, Hamilton Road, Hutt Cross Road, Overhill Road, Roland Drive, Tuckahoe Road, Williamsbury Road North, Woodale Court, and Woodale Road. The project's going to consist of pulverizing the existing road, which is a big project in and of itself, and placing new asphalt pavement 4 inches thick over the aggregate base with full depth cold milling asphalt removal. This is a total curb and gutter removal and replacement with a total underdrain installation and sodden shoulders. Minor drainage improvements will be made to reasonably assure drainage of the pavement. All shoulders and disturbed areas will be covered with topsoil and sod. A maximum 5-foot approach will be constructed to existing driveways to provide smooth transition from the newly paved roadway where necessary. I've included quite a few pictures in these next slides. You can see this first one is Woodale Road. I tried to get pretty much all the roads that were included in the project. Next is Hutt Cross. And it's funny, as you look through these pictures, take note that you see no curbs. And there are curbs in this whole subdivision. So that just goes to show the depth of repairing and replacements that have gone through this subdivision. They have literally exceeded and risen above the curbs through the whole sub. This is Glengarry Circle West. This is of Roland Drive. And lastly, Burning Bush and Woodale. The petition was confirmed by the Township Assessor and was accepted by the Township Board of Trustees on July 10th of 2023. Petition submitted by the property owners to the Township does meet Public Act 188's requirements. It was supported by 56.02% of the homeowners, representing 54.64% of the roadway frontage. Estimated project cost is $8,073,397.38. Parcels in the proposed SAD are 193 with 191 units of benefit. Tentative assessment is going to be $42,269.09 per parcel that are receiving that full unit of benefit. The assessments can be financed over 15 years. Interest to be determined after bonds are sold, and it is 1% over our bond rate. Our requested action today is that we request approval of resolution number 2 and schedule the public hearing for a final assessment on April 8th of 2024. We are asking that you approve our agreement with the Road Commission of Oakland County, and then they will move forward with finalizing their plans and bid the project. More than likely January, February of next year.
So we'll start with the public comment first, and then we can open up for board discussion. So if anybody from the public wants to come on up, just step up to the podium. You can all just line up and come on up.
Okay to start?
Yeah.
3 minutes?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right, I'll try to go quick here. First of all, I want to say a thanks to Kathy, the village manager. She's been incredible. Jennifer Werthman to work with an assessment. Brian, welcome, into your new life. You've been incredible to work with. And also Michael, to your new appointment. A lot of emotion in this. I'm Matthew McCardle. This is my wife, Nicole McCardle, 3365. I'm sorry, a little nervous right here. Burning Bush Road. And lots of emotion in this. I know that, we looked at the stats. There's like a little bit half, wanted to go forward with this, half didn't. There was an extended campaign. A lot of people, in my opinion, felt a little bit pressured to go forward, but needless to say, there's a lot of mixed emotion in what we're doing here. I do want to affirmatively say that I'm a no. I protest the project assessment, so I want to go on record with that. And this is why. I think that, there are some merits in going forward with this. I think that the things that we haven't considered in consulting with the teams, as in various conversations is, I think we should be replacing the sewer line, the water line, the gas line, possibly bearing the electrical. In Bloomfield Village, we notoriously lose electrical all the time. If we don't replace the sewer line, water line, gas line, or at least the laterals from everybody's property, literally in a year, they're going to be cutting into the street. You're going to see patchwork everywhere. This is just my opinion. I've lived in other neighborhoods. I've seen it happen. I've seen roads repaired, and literally months later, people have to replace their sewer line, maybe the lateral, maybe it's not the sewer that needs to be replaced, but the actual lateral to the house. And it's a nightmare. And it's happening right now on Hup Cross. I could show you pictures as well. They're replacing things, and that's a problem. I think the destruction of trees is big to me. I think what I read is that there's potentially 300 trees that are going to be destructed. One of the reasons that we moved into this neighborhood was because of the trees. The tree-lined neighborhoods is what really makes this neighborhood. I lived in Birmingham and Franklin and these neighborhoods all of my life. Like Senator Moss, and I've contacted your office. We're in contact, actually today. I'm a graduate of Grove, so I've been in this area all my life. I really appreciate it. I love the trees, and just thinking about tree destruction is just, it's mind-boggling, and I think that one of my trees is going to be. So, after 50, 60, 70 years, trees growing in an area, that's the character of the neighborhood. Having muttons and having shutters on a house, all of these things bring character to the village. Trees do too. They're incredible. They're amazing, and this is really crazy. At the end of the day, I think it's too much. $42,000 assessed for my property and the neighboring property. That's $84,000. I've already had 3 quotes between $17,000 and $24,000 for the same work: engineering, underlayment. I do construction. I do purchasing, sales, project management, product management. I know this stuff. I built 5 houses, including with Bloomfield Township. Had a wonderful experience with your building department, and I just feel like it's too much. So, at the end of the day, what I would support for mine, if we did go forward, would be $24,000 split between 2. And these are contractors that do work for the township, Birmingham, all of the different areas, commercial work. They understand. I did a FOIA, so I understand the exact breakdown from what the county did. And all of these workers or the contractors understand exactly what the requirements are, and they specifically did, to details, the approach to the driveway, the underlayment, the
Mr. McCardle, can you wrap it up, please?
Yes, absolutely. Anyways, needless to say, understand all the requirements. We had multiple quotes out. What I would support is $24,000 in half, based on my responsibility and the adjacent property on the other side. Other than that, I'm a no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Lisa Brown, and I'm on 762 Wooddale Drive. And unfortunately, the picture that was up there is the right in front of our house. So Wooddale Drive is really bad. There's ruts everywhere. We love the neighborhood. We've been here for probably 12 years, 13 years. And it's beautiful, but the roads are terrible. And about 8 years ago, we tried to get this passed and we were unable to. And the cost was a lot less, but it's not going to get any cheaper. So unfortunately, you know, we have to move forward with this. We have, you know, really nice homes. We have kids that are riding bikes, you know, down the roads. There's big potholes in it. It's dangerous. And, you know, we have in the front of our yard, the grade is so bad, we have to do something with that, but we can't do it until the roads are fixed. You know, we have water that's puddling in our driveway, but it's like you can't do that until we start with the roads. So I'm a yes, I was a volunteer, and I talked to many neighbors who were in favor of this, and they really want it to get done. So I am a yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Marie Molnar, and I lived in the village for 52 years. And I feel it's time to take care of those roads. It's really a mess. And that's why I'm here tonight, just to mention that we have to do something, and because it's a beautiful place to live. I've been there so long, I love it, you know. It's safe. My kids grew up there, and it's a beautiful neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jen. Hey, Jen, can you pull that down a little bit so we can hear better? Sorry. Thank you.
So trustees, you've already heard my earlier statement. I live at 711 Wooddale, and I again ask for your mercy about this. Anything that could be done to reduce the cost of this project, it would be wonderful to improve our neighborhood. But even if I pay over 15 years, the net present value of the cash flows is $32,000. If invested 20 years from now, that would be over $120,000, which essentially amounts to my 9-month-old son's college money. It'll be a tremendous hardship for us, so please listen to my neighbor's suggestions and try to find ways to reduce the cost of this project. And I, again, appeal to you, if possible, to reduce my family's share to 1/2. I'll give you the copy of...
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. My name's Sean Metros. I live on Glengarry Circle, 876 West Glengarry Circle. I've lived in the village for 20 years, and after the last petition for the roads failed, I got involved in the road committee. And believe it or not, I've been working on this now for 7 years as the chairman of the road committee, and we're finally here. So this is a blessing. You know, first and foremost, I've spoken to probably a couple hundred residents between getting the signatures to get the first proposal to now getting the petition signed. And I can say almost zero have said we do not need new roads, right? So it comes down to who's going to pay for the roads. And the only option is the residents. So we've explored all options. It's, for me, a safety issue. I have 4 children between the ages of 10 and 15. A year and a half ago, one of my youngest hit a pothole. If he wasn't wearing a helmet, it could have been very serious, right? His body's cut up. He's got scars all over his body that he's going to have probably for the rest of his life. Secondly, it is an aesthetic issue. I can't tell you how many times I've had a driver from MetroCars tell me, what a beautiful neighborhood. It's absolutely ridiculous how bad these roads are. My 15-year-old, who's now learning to drive, swerves out of the way around potholes. And I say, what are you doing? He says, well, I can't hit this pothole. And I'm like, well, what if another car's coming? So it's ridiculous. It's beyond repair. And finally, we got 56% of the residents to vote in favor of this. So I'm so excited that we're finally here to get this project done. And I'm definitely a yes for the roads. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, board. My name is Brian Cohen. I live at 657 Half Moon. I've lived in the village for 8 years now. Grew up in Huntington Woods, so I know the value of a tight-knit community. And I just need to say that this project is needed. We do need new roads. However, fixing a few potholes are not going to improve the value of our homes. We have a beautiful subdivision, and as was stated at the beginning, special assessments are sustained upon the theory that the value of property is enhanced by the improvement, and it needs to be substantial, or it can be declared invalid if there's not a substantial or unreasonable disproportionality. Excuse me, I'm also nervous. Don't usually speak here, I apologize. Having our beautiful neighborhood, we already have inflated home values, and replacing the roads in regards to our beautiful homes is not going to increase the value of our homes to the proportion that we're paying. $42,000 plus in the blue section, which I'm in, as was already also stated, that money, and I have 3 young children as well. I have 8, 7, and 5-year-old, all boys, and they have no problem riding their bikes on the sidewalks, which are nice, which have no potholes, and which is where safely they should be riding their bikes anyway, not in the middle of a road, is my opinion. And with that said, $42,000, not many of us can afford that up front, so we're forced to take on an extra mortgage over 15 years, which is almost additional half the cost of that project. So over the course of the project, we're being asked to pay another $18,000 at today's rates, which we don't know what the bond rate is. The bond rate at the time of the project could be 5%, and then we're having another 6%, which is over twice as much as my current mortgage. So I am being now asked to forfeit my future to replace roads over 15 years, which is unreasonable just based on the cost. And again, the people who have voted no, as myself, have not said that the problem is the roads don't need to be fixed, but the price of this is just so high that it is unobtainable. Additionally, I have to expect that property values may go down, because now when people are trying to sell their homes, they have to say, oh, by the way, your property tax is an extra $4,000 to $5,000 because you have to pay for your roads. 2 more points that I have to go quickly. One is the trees. In the blue section, it says that 50 trees are going to be taken out. I won't go into that because that was already stated by one of my neighbors. But the other part is that there are 5 sections in this. So far, only 2 have voted, and almost half of each division has voted no. And if other sections vote no, it's going to make our subdivision look even more patchwork if we have 3 sections that have new roads and 2 sections that don't. So even if we don't, if you do move forward with this, I ask you to wait at least a year to see if 2 more sections pass before we have an even more patchwork system than we currently have. Thank you for your time, and I really urge you to reject this proposal, or at least hold it off for 1 year pending other sections passing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Here.
My name is Brian Cott. I live at 138 Hupcross, which is not in the section, but I am the immediate past president of the Homeowners Association in Bloomfield Village. We've been working on this project since 2018. But that doesn't mean that our roads haven't been, also the roads were last redone in the 60s with a 20-year life. So we are at a critical point in the life of the roads, and as many people have pointed out, if we wait any longer, it's going to increase. The costs are going to increase. Since the last time we looked at it, I think it's already doubled. Okay. We've spent the past 3 years following the statutory requirements of the to get these roads done. We've worked with the Road Commission. We've worked with the Township. We've done everything in our power to get this done. I must point out that even though we have an estimate, a current estimate for the work which was done by the Road Commission, we will not know what the actual cost is until the work is bid, which will be sometime, I think, either late fall or early winter. It's important that we move forward with this project. We need these roads done, and I sincerely request that you approve this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Scott Borovich. When I was 4 years old, I moved to Bradway Boulevard. In 1979, my parents remained in that neighborhood until 2016. I had the opportunity to move back into the area in 2017. I've lived at 652 Hupcross Road since 2017. I could say I'm passionate about the neighborhood. I'm passionate about the trees. I'm passionate about the sidewalks. I love my neighbors, who I also consider my friends. It pains me to go against them, but I think we need the roads. I do also believe strongly it's a safety issue. I do believe it's expensive. I think it needs to be a lower cost. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to lose 20% of the trees, but yet I think it must be done. I was also had the opportunity to be on the volunteer committee going door to door. I can also affirm that what I heard from all residents, even those that said no, they only voted against it because of the cost. But I'm pleased that 56% of the neighborhood wants to redo the roads. I'm not an assessor. I can't speak to real estate value, but I can also tell you firsthand that the first comment I get for all of our visitors that visit the neighborhood, what is wrong with your roads? Do you not believe in basic infrastructure? And they blame the township, they blame the county, and I have to explain, well, it's the residents, we have to pay for it. And so it is embarrassing, and I do believe there's a perceived value in the roads. Maybe it won't translate to the bottom line, and yes, our property taxes are gonna go up for 15 years, but I believe that there will be value in people wanting to visit not only a beautiful neighborhood, and we can replant those trees. Some of them are old and aging anyway, and they need to be probably refreshed. So I think when we look back at this in 15 years, after we have the pain of paying for it, I think we'll all determine it was well worth it. So thank you very much for your time. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Weisenborn. I'm the manager in Bloomfield Village. I'm also a resident. This is a hearing of necessity, and it's hard to argue after you saw those pictures, and I'm sure all of you have driven in the village, that our roads do not need a solution. They're 60 years old. They've been overlaid so many times that the curbs are buried, and our pothole patches have potholes in them. And there isn't really a solution other than fixing a full rebuild of our roads, which is what we've been told over the last 20 years. And I'm really thrilled that more than 56% of our residents said it's high time we get that done. I wanted to just clarify what Mr. McCardle said about the trees. We did have an inventory of our trees done in the village. There are 301 trees in the right-of-way in the blue section, and the estimate is 50 of those will come down. Nobody wants to lose any trees, but some of those are just too darn close to the road to be able to handle the construction. We've gotten to this point through the hard work of about a dozen volunteers in the blue section. Many of those volunteers spoke tonight. They spent their personal time going door to door, calling, texting, emailing multiple times, sometimes to get a hold of residents and to have discussions with residents and to answer their questions and make sure those residents could be heard. The association has also made a very substantial investment in this project. We launched a separate website where we publish substantial information about the history of the roads, how the SAD process works, why the current solution is the solution that we have to follow. And we update that frequently with blog posts and frequently asked questions as questions came up during this process. We also held over a dozen small group meetings for our residents to be able to come in and have their questions addressed and have a discussions in a smaller forum that's kind of difficult in a town hall kind of setting. We held a forum here in this room with Mark Metzler of the Road Commission, where he presented and discussed with residents about the construction process itself and answered a lot of residents' question about how it will happen and what they will go through and how they may or may not be inconvenienced by the process. And we've kept our residents informed with e-blasts and letters and mailings and over the past 2 years this has been going on. And our goal really has been to make sure that they have the information they need to make an informed decision, whether they support it or not. And I understand that some don't, and that's fair, that's fine, but we wanted to make sure everybody had correct and accurate and complete information. I feel like our residents have spoken clearly about the roads in this blue section. They want the roads fixed. They're willing to accept a sizable assessment to get that done, and they're willing to endure construction for a year. And so I ask tonight your support for this SAD to finally get our roads repaired. And as you know, we have 4 sections in the village, and this is the first one. And by approving this first one, you really do set the tone as our elected public officials to say, yes, we support what you as the residents are trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? And I'll go ahead and close the public comment section. So bring Jen back up. Do any board members have any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. First, Dirk, can you clarify under PA 188 what our role is in passing this resolution?
Well, tonight the rule is we had the public hearing on necessity. So if you adopted the resolution tonight, you would basically be determining the petition sufficient. You'd be declaring the tentative necessity, establishing the boundaries of the district. Then you'd be instructing the preparation of the special assessment roll, which I believe would be brought back in April, if I'm not mistaken, April 2024. I know that one or two gentlemen in the audience today spoke about they thought maybe their particular units were not properly established. That is something that can be fixed right up until the adoption of the special assessment roll. So it doesn't necessarily have to be done tonight. They could be included in the district and in the units reduced. I don't know where their particular properties are. But yes, tonight you'd be adopting the resolution, declaring the necessity, accepting the sufficiency of the petition, setting the special assessment, setting the public hearing on the confirmation of the roll, approving the agreement with RCOC to do all the construction work and whatnot, and authorizing them to ultimately go out for bids to find out what the project cost is. One gentleman spoke, and I forget who it was, but he mentioned that the number that was spoken about tonight is an estimate, and that is correct. It is just an estimate. Once the bids are received, and we will know what the actual amount of the project would be, and that would enable the township assessor then to prepare the special assessment roll based on the actual numbers. So.
Right. And I don't know if it's statute or if it's just our policy that if the estimate comes in, what is it, 10%?
10% over.
If it's 10% over, then we go back to petitions.
It's 10% over, we have to have another hearing.
Okay.
If it's more than 10% over, we have to have another hearing. So.
Yeah. Not petitions, but a hearing.
Hearing, okay.
And then if it's over 15, does it go back to petitions?
I think it goes back to petitions.
Yeah.
Okay, so 15% would go back to petitions, 10% is a hearing. Okay. And I don't know if one of you guys, or if we get Kathy to answer, but where do we stand with the other 3 areas?
The only 2 that we've tried, 2 have passed.
Right. So
The
as
other
of
3 can't be done yet because this is the largest amount
Right.
that RCOC has ever had.
Okay.
So their capacity can only take on so much. So they can only focus on 2 at a time. We just met with RCOC last week that we are now just starting the design process and everything of the next 2.
And then so that would be required before you even go to petitions.
Oh, yes, yes.
So the petitions.
petition has to have an estimated amount
So
in
the
it,
petitions for the other 2 you said would be
or at least a year out.
at least a year away. Okay.
And then the time to actually put out the petition, it's about 6 months. So those are much further out.
Okay.
Couple comments or questions. If you could clear, I've had questions. We talked about the certification of the rolls, and maybe if you can just go through the process of auditing and/or certifying every signature in the process, so that the residents can be comfortable knowing what the process is and the details and your accuracy of it.
Sure, absolutely. So once the petitions are turned in to myself and Darren, our assessor, we work through signature by signature. So we are comparing based upon any sort of official documents that have been filed with Register of Deeds. So whether it's your mortgage statements that you have signed, whether it's a quitclaim deed, any sort of document that might have been filed with Oakland County, we are comparing your signature on the petition to that signature. If we're unable to find a signature in Register of Deeds, then we are either asking for you to come in and sign with us in person. We're looking at driver's license or pretty much any other sort of document that we can actually validate. I say all the time, my signature probably varies from every document I sign, but there are characteristics, there are traits to somebody's signature. Kathy can attest to, I had a couple people that we went at it about 3 or 4 times because they signed their name a different way, and it's very important to us. If we cannot validate that signature, we'll kick it out. If you were to look through the board packet, you would see there were probably 3 people that we ended up not using their signatures because we were unable to verify it. You also we have to have signatures of everybody who is on the ownership for the property. So if it's 2 brothers that own it and we have 1 brother that signs and the other brother that we're unable to attain a signature on, then we're not counting that unit of benefit.
Thank you, Jen. Appreciate that. Also, maybe Mark, if you could come up and talk about, there were comments regarding pricing and the bidding process, and maybe if you can just talk about who's accepted, who you accept or who goes out to bid, the process of bidding, and the county's comfort with the extensiveness and the quality of the bids and bidders.
Yeah, so at this point, obviously, we've done the design, we've prepared the engineer's estimate. We come up with the engineer's estimate by using data. We have a live roll.
Mark, I'm sorry, maybe if you could introduce yourself. I didn't do that.
I'm Mark Mesler, Road Commission, Oakland County.
Thank you.
I'm the Subdivision Planning Coordinator. So we've done the design. We have a live rolling database. So every time we take a bid in, we update that database. So we have an idea of real factual numbers that we're using in the engineer's estimate. Okay. What'll happen is if in fact you approve us to go forward, we'll finalize these plans. We'll put together a spec book or proposal book. We'll put it out to bid for a public bid for 3 weeks. So anybody that meets our criteria, which is bondable, has the proper equipment, et cetera, is able to bid the project. So Jim and John with a shovel and an asphalt loot, obviously we're not going to accept their bid. I would suspect that we're going to see some pretty competitive bidding in this project. We're going to have this first phase. We have the second phase, which we call red coming forward, which I guess actually is phase 1. And then we're currently going to be working on the other phases, yellow, gold, and green. So contractors are going to be pretty excited about this from my perspective because they understand there's a bigger picture. The reason that we have not designed all the phases at once is because we understand that we can only construct in this environment, in this intensity, that we can only construct X amount of miles of road per year. And between Bloomfield Township and us, we sat down, we looked at what we could construct, broke it out into the phases, and that's how we came up with the 5 different phases. So we're very comfortable with the design that we're putting forward. Yes, we're going to have trees that are going to have to be removed. They're either growing over the top of the curb that you can't see right now. The roots are growing out into the road. We are going to do the best that we can to eliminate as many tree removals as we can. So.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
And to piggyback on that, one thing that this is the most extensive project that has come before since I was a trustee or as a supervisor. So when I saw this amount, although it's large, we do have constant $30,000 ones where it is more the simple one that might have been quoted. Can you explain what I believe it's called the red brick and how many what you're doing different with this project that is never in any other comparative project? Even Kirkway, I believe, was 30-some thousand, and that's not even close to the capacity of what you're doing.
Back in the day, they used to create your sanitary systems and your storm systems. They used to be what we call combined systems, so they both went into the same system. In today's world, DEQ and regulating agencies, et cetera, don't allow that anymore. Bloomfield Village is full of these structures. We call them red brick structures because back in the day, they actually were made out of the same bricks that you'll see on the side of houses, et cetera, et cetera. With that being said, the integrity of those structures is there but not there. So for us to be able to rehabilitate these structures, the best means and most efficient financially to rehabilitate these structures is we're going to go in and we're actually going to line them. So we're going to put for all intent purposes, we're going to put a bag in there. We're going to blow it up, and that bag is going to adhere into the inside of that structure and bring integrity back to that structure. And yes, this is by far the biggest project that's ever gone through even the road commission. This project is enormous. It's been around before my time. I think they've tried to move this project forward at least 4 or 5 times through the course of coming to the SAD. At times they were coming to the road commission. They previously came to Bloomfield Township, and they weren't successful in the past. So.
And this one is the first one I remember where drainage is included, because we always are quick to say, you're fixing roads, not drains. This one actually does have a drainage element to it, which obviously increases
And
the
another
cost.
course of that is back in the day, they ran a lot of these public utility structures down the middle of the road or in the road. And now, in today's world, we require those items to be outside of the road within the right-of-way, so we don't have to deal with them when we're rehabilitating existing roads.
Another thing, speaking about public utilities, with Kirkway, I know we just recently did the discussion of burying the DTE lines. As a tree hugger, that's actually a really bad decision, because that means ripping out every single tree along the road. Every single tree in the right-of-way would be ripped out because it cannot be over those power lines, which would now be below. So that is something that we just investigated. We met with DTE through Kirkway and everybody to talk about doing an SAD to bury the lines. Not only was it the most cost prohibitive thing I've ever seen, but it also meant ripping out every single tree along the road, which obviously would change the canopy of the village drastically.
And I'll add to that, pre-design phase, we send out looking for information from the township,
Right.
the DPW departments, consumers, Detroit Edison's, right? We do our due diligence to find out where those utilities and what condition those utilities are in.
Right.
I know, and you may or may not know this, but there was quite a bit of work that has been done to the public infrastructure in Bloomfield Village. So the water mains, the sanitaries and things of that nature.
So
there's quite
just
a bit.
so to that point, because my question was going to be, we heard a comment about replacing the sewer, water, and the gas line. So are you saying now that that's not something you anticipate being a problem?
Absolutely, we do
working
not
on it.
anticipate that being a problem.
Yeah.
Danny can probably speak to it, or
And Katie's even
Jennifer,
here.
as
Katie's
far
last
as,
chance at DPW.
As far as the pipe bursting they did
Yeah.
and the relining that they did with the sanitary and the water main and et cetera, et cetera. So there's a small portion in the north piece of it. And back then, Olivia and I had extensive conversation about what had been rehabilitated and what hasn't. There's a small portion to the north that is an older system, but it's still been verified is in acceptable and working condition, which is not part of any of these phases. It's the future phases that are coming. As far as the gas lines, so if you have a long side service, which means the mains on this side, then you have the road and you have the houses over here, right? The road commission, since it's our right of way, will require a permit from that public utility agency. And when the road is redone, they will require that agency to bore underneath the road rather than open cut the road. So, and that bore is dictated at 48 inches, so it's down below the frost freeze line. So we won't have any chance of experiencing frost freeze or bumps, little bumps in the road. Generally, that's what you experience when you navigate a road.
And right now, the things that they're seeing is because it's been moved up, knowing that there was a possibility of a new road. There's a long-term plan of where things are affected based on our budget. But when you see something moving forward that hasn't in the past, you quickly move up your own to get it done before the road goes in.
Well, and much like when Dani mentioned the price, as a trustee, I don't see it coming as early as like someone like Dani does. But when I saw it, my first question was, why is it so high? And one of the things that you explained at our prior meeting was that unlike some subdivisions like mine, we just have concrete curbs at the corners for erosion. We don't have concrete curbs, but in the township, I guess it's down there in the village, you had concrete curb and gutter, and you will get that again. And of course, that is going to drive the price up. And I appreciate, I did this in my own subdivision. We've tried to do it again, and the price went up 3 times from when we initially did it in the 80s, and we couldn't pass it. It was really close, 49, 51%. So I understand both sides. I've knocked on the doors. I've paid for it myself. I've talked with you guys at the county back when I was doing it. But on the other side, much like an election of anything else, when you have 56% that have done the due diligence, and that is past it, and it doesn't feel appropriate for us to say, well, you guys did everything according to the protocol and everything checked all the boxes. I would feel it's not appropriate to say, no, I understand it's a financial hardship for some, but I appreciate all the information you shared. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion?
If we're wrapping up, I would just add that, as Trustee Murray said, that this may be financial hardship for some, and the reason I asked my question of Dirk was because, we have certain responsibilities. If a petition comes to us and it's determined to be sufficient, then we have we don't have a lot of discretion to deviate from that. And somebody mentioned before the present value of payments, and like somebody's speaking my language. And so, I look at it as, yes, this is enormously expensive. And I used to live on Ardmore. I know the roads are terrible. But I think it has to be done. 56% say it has to be done and are willing to pay for it. But if you don't do it, what's it going to look like in 5 years or 10 years? And how's that going to affect your property values? And at the same time, what's it going to cost to do it in 5 or 10 years? Somebody before mentioned, well, we looked at doing this 4 years ago and it was half the price. Yeah, well, we've had 9%, 10% inflation for the last 2 years, and that affects everything. We have a shortage of construction, people, workers, contractors, et cetera. So I think the sooner you get it done, the better. So I just wanted to add that in. But,
and one thing I forgot, I'm sorry, to tag on to Michael, but also having worked with the county before on this and also been on this board and seen several projects come past this, you guys are very, very good about your estimates. And the 10%, I don't know that I've seen it ever get hit into. And in fact, I know specifically with the Kirkwood subdivision last year, the year before, it came in significantly under budget. And that's music to our ears. Everybody's proportion got down. And then if the interest rates, participate, then that's another thing that can, incredibly be helpful. But you guys are very good, and, you would never expect this to come in way above budget. You can't control it, but they're good at what they do. And I've seen it over and over again that you guys know how to estimate it so that there aren't huge surprises. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, we did actually ask. Noah was the only one that remembers one coming in above 10%. It was probably at least more than 10 years ago was the last time that they had one. But one time in his.
Just to piggyback a little more on what everyone has said, it's a lot of money, no question about it. However, the fact that despite how expensive the cost is, and the fact that 56% of the residents are in favor of spending that amount of money, that says a lot to me, because it shows you in such poor condition that the roads are, and they have been for a long time, and they're only going to get worse. And I do recall when this was contemplated years ago, and it was half the cost. And certainly if the residents are interested in moving forward on this, it's only going to get more expensive. And the fact, again, that 56% of the residents are in favor of this, shows me, again, how important it is to dip into their pocketbooks for that amount of money. And statutorily, I think we are in a position that we need to follow what the residents want.
And that is one of the highest. I know 56 may not sound very high, but considering many that passed were 50 point something or 51, 56 is one of our significant numbers that we've ever had at this level.
So unless there's further comment, I'm ready to make a motion.
Just one last thing.
Yes.
I mean, I agree with everything's been said. I don't want to add a lot, but, it's a difficult decision for the homeowners. It's a difficult decision for the board members. I don't see, when faced with a difficult decision like this, any other more fair way to do it than to do it by the majority rule, and majority decides this, and 56% is a resounding support for something like this. So that's the only thing I wanted to add. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
Motion by Trustee Burnett. Did you want to address your motion that way?
Sure, I'd be happy to. That we approve resolution number 2 and schedule the public hearing for final assessment for April 8th, 2024, and approve agreement with Road Commission of Oakland County and finalize the plans for bid project. For support.
You have a motion by Trustee Barnett, support by Treasurer Kepes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass.
Congratulations.
So now we will go on to considering approval of resolution to accept a petition to create a special assessment district, SAD, for a road improvement project in Bloomfield Village, project phase 1, and schedule the first public hearing of necessity for September 26th.
Thank you. So again, this is going to be what we refer to as phase 1 or the red phase. This one took a little bit longer through the petition process, which is why blue went through a little faster. But they did manage to get this one there nonetheless. So again, we're looking at Bloomfield Village Phase 1, Road SAD proposed road paving project. Petition for creating a special assessment district for road paving. Next slide, you'll see this is our district. This is the far east side of the village. It is separated off. They're kind of off on their own. Initially, this was created because this was the first cut that the Road Commission had decided to take at it, and with the way that they've gone, it looks like it possibly will run simultaneously with the blue phase, or at least in some semblance of order for next year. Phase 1 consists of part of Judson Bradway Bloomfield Village subdivision, as well as Judson Bradway's Bloomfield Village number 3. It's composed of 3.26 miles of public roads, including Doorstone Place, Tottenham Road, Yarmouth Road, Waddington Road, Pine Street, Tilbury Road, Tilbury Place, Westwood Drive, North Glenhurst Drive, and South Bradway Boulevard. Again, the project consists of pulverizing the existing road and placing new asphalt pavement 4 inches thick over the aggregate base with full depth cold milling asphalt removal. It is again another total curb and gutter removal and replacement with total under drain installation with sodden shoulders. Minor drainage repair improvements will be made to reasonably ensure the drainage of the pavement. All shoulders and disturbed areas will be covered with topsoil and sod. A maximum 5-foot approach will be constructed to existing driveways to provide smooth transitions from the newly paved roadways where necessary. The next few pages will show some pictures that I was able to grab. These first couple slides are of Tottenham Road. The next is Tottenham and Yarmouth. Moving on to Waddington. And then we have an intersection at Oak and Waddington. Glenhurst. And not lastly, Tilbury and Tilbury Place. And then some more of Tottenham. And lastly is Oak. The petition has been confirmed by the Township Assessor. It was supported by 54.05% of the homeowners, representing 53.57% of the road frontage. Estimated project cost for Phase 1 is $10,810,685.16. There are 225 parcels in this SAD, 222 of which are being assessed 1 full unit of benefit. Tentative assessment per unit of benefit is $48,696.78. Our requested actions for today are we would like you to accept this petition, approve resolution to create SAD number 427, and I would like to schedule the public hearing of necessity for September 26th of 2023. Any questions?
Questions for Jen or Darren? Just seeing if you're awake. He makes Jen do all the hard work on his birthday. He's 50, isn't it, nap time? I'm older than him, I can say that. Any questions for Jen? And if not, I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion to
Support.
Can't wait. Let
To
her.
request the action of accept petition, approve resolution to create SAD number 427, and schedule the public hearing of necessity for September 26, 2023.
Perfect.
My husband's birthday.
Oh, there you go. All the
I'll bring a
birthdays.
cake.
Trustee Murray made a motion, support by Trustee Schostak. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. All right, so next we have consider approval of a third agreement, amended agreement between the Charter Township of Bloomfield and Bloomfield Hills School District for additional public safety and security services. We have Police Chief Gallagher here today.
Good evening. And that was a great birthday present for Darren to go first. So happy birthday, Darren. You know. Good evening. In front of you, and including your board packet, was a third amended agreement between the Charter Township of Bloomfield and the Bloomfield Hills School District. This is really just wording language change. Our current model with the school district is that we have a school security officer and a school liaison officer. With the hiring of a couple additional personnel within the school district, they have a security personnel on staff now and a school nurse on staff now. So some of the job duties that were completed by our school security officer, most of you would have known at the time, Detective Corey Donberger was that person for many years. We felt the need to combine the two roles and change the title to a school resource officer. That'll allow us to combine those job duties of the school security officer and school liaison officer, and the majority of people recognize a school resource officer title in many agencies. The dollar value stays the same. It's just divided 75 and 75% per employee, which is now Officer Lauer and Officer Tom Riney, who both were selected recently. Dirk reviewed this as well as the school's administrative staff, and outgoing superintendent Pat Watson signed it, and the request is that Supervisor Walsh and then myself also sign.
Any questions, comments?
Make a motion.
Motion by Trustee Barnett. Support by Clerk Brook. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you very much. If you want to stay up there, we have consider approval of a memorandum of understanding between Oakland County Community Health Network and each participating agency.
This one is another memorandum of understanding. It's our continued partnership with Oakland County Health Network, which really started, as we've talked in the past, with our co-responder mental health program. Since then, we have one of the goals of that program when we did it was that all our officers, all of the agencies that were participating at that time would be crisis intervention trained. We're well on our way there, so much so that we've actually sent officers, or Sergeant April Swatala went and became a trainer for the CIT training. So she partners with different agencies in training and being a facilitator of the CIT program. Through the ARPA funds, Oakland County Health Network was able to get a grant that reimburses the township for our time spent doing so. So an instructor can be reimbursed their salary, or anybody that's gone to the class can be reimbursed their salary until the allotted money is ran out or runs out. So this is a agreement allowing us to enter in with them so that we can submit reimbursement for them. And this one is asked that the police chiefs sign on this one. And Dirk did review this as well.
Any questions or comments? Now I look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Murray.
Support.
Support by Trustee Fakih. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. And another one we have is to reconsider approval of installing flock license plate reader cameras. Do you want to go ahead and present?
Sure. So I'd like to start first by thanking the board for allowing me this opportunity to revisit this, and thank Chief Gallagher and Officer Soley for, indulging me here. But I'll just start by saying I've been a criminal defense attorney for 10 years, practicing primarily in Oakland County, and I am I work with police departments every single day. And I can speak to the fact that I have never had a negative experience with the Bloomfield Township Police Department. I've seen their officers be very by the book, and I have the utmost respect and confidence in the leaders of our police department, which is probably why I initially voted yes for this, for this program. But anybody who knows me knows that I am, even aside from being a criminal defense attorney, I've always been very leery of government surveillance. And while there is a policy in place now to try to restrict that surveillance and the way that the technology can be used, after the vote later that night, I almost immediately regretted my yes vote. And so I wanted to have the opportunity to revisit this because while, again, I have the utmost respect for our department and it's an honor for me to represent Bloomfield Township and the police department, it's not something that I can in good conscience support. So thank you.
We just re-vote. We have discussion.
You can discuss.
Is there any additional discussion?
I'd like to just add,
Yeah.
I after listening to the dialogue at the last meeting, I spent some time with the detectives and some of the staff going over the process, and I found it interesting. I mean, number one, most of the communities I think that surround us have this system. All of them. When we think about our roads and our community, it could be in the community now. It could be in the community on MDOT Road, so it could be along Telegraph, it could be along Woodward, it could be along Square Lake, it could be along the expressways, which it currently is along. And so given that the technology exists, given that it is used in the township and could be used more extensively in the township, and given the trust that we have with our own township police, I would think it would almost be more incumbent to do it so that we're on the same side. We know what everyone else is seeing within our community rather than be excluded from it. I think I was listening over the weekend that there was a stolen vehicle, I think from one of the plants that was apprehended in Farmington Hills based on the system. And maybe you can speak to that. And
We actually had something
Yeah,
that we needed.
actually, I want to say it was the same week that you approved it. We got an anonymous tip. Officer Soley got an anonymous tip in reference to a subject that was wanted on a probation violation warrant out of Wayne County. The warrant was initially for assault on a police officer, aggravated. We don't know the circumstances surrounding it, but we did get alerted that the subject was in the township at a residence. We went to the residence with all our plainclothes. We had no marked units available, so our plainclothes officers went. The subject realized that the police were coming to him, and he fled the area, going over across multiple lawns, etc. We did not give pursuit into that. However, one of the things that we were able to do is we knew that this vehicle had Ohio license plates, a certain, not the standard white and I think blue or whitish red that is standard out there, but we knew it had some kind of sunset in the background, we'll say, some kind of decals in the background. We were able to determine very soon, within a 12-hour period of time, that vehicle returned to the state of Ohio. Again, we didn't know, that car wasn't registered to the subject that was wanted. So we didn't, had that been the case and we didn't have positive confirmation that he was in that vehicle, on a wanted person, we would have had to verify that the subject driving that car by our own eyes, not by, because again, the flock cameras do not show hurt people. So we would have to verify by driving up next to it, doing whatever. And Stephanie, Trustee Fakih, she understands that part of this job. So, and we don't take offense to you wanting to have this vote change. But we were able to rapidly determine that we don't need to waste our time trying to find the subject in here in the state of Michigan. He's back in Ohio. We can alert the Ohio authorities or Wayne County's probation, and they can then go upon that. The technology is everywhere. I actually brought our policy because it's in the draft form for all our lieutenants right now to proofread in that. And there was a lot of, I appreciate Brian today even coming down because they had an opportunity to show them how the system worked because they were actually using it from another agency. It is in our policies that we have to verify the information. Just because a hot request, or we call it a wanted vehicle or stolen vehicle, that's an easy one, right? You can't have a stolen vehicle, you can't have a stolen license plate. We can traffic stop that car anytime. Another example would be is if we had a retail fraud, somewhere up at Telegraph and Square Lake, and all we know is that it was a black BMW or a black Mercedes with a partial plate, 123. We can search the database based on that. You can't change the make and model of your car. The human element to that is they could tell us it was, this person, and then we're relying on it. It sometimes takes that bias away. You can't change the make and model of your car or the license plate on your car, but that human element must come into play too. We have to verify that this vehicle, if it's a stolen car and it's 123 ABC on the license plate, we have to verify that that's 123 ABC out of the state that they say. Michigan has very similar to, I think, New York sequence in letters. We have to make sure by our own eyes at that point that car matches what's listed stolen on the flock. In addition to that, we can't just we could stop it for that, but our dispatch has to also verify and confirm that vehicle is stolen. So the placement of these cameras, that was one of the key things when we talk about placement, is we have to have time to make those determinations before the vehicle's out of Bloomfield Township. So putting it at southbound at Telegraph at 14 Mile Road to get every car that leaves, well, that doesn't give Bloomfield Township enough time to do our verification and the human side of it as well. So I don't want to make it sound, I just don't want there to be the misunderstanding that it's only, well, this camera tells us something and that's gospel for what it is. That is not the case. We still, per our own policies and per Flock's policy, must have that human element and visualized by the officer in conjunction with our dispatch center, who will get those photos. So they'll be able to see them, we'll verify them, then the dispatch center will verify, whether they're stolen or not. So, and then, in our policy, just which we typically don't do, but we specifically did for this one, any releasing of LPR data, we put in there that any change in technology which becomes more intrusive, and we used IE facial recognition just for that purpose, shall be presented, which means we have to the Township Board for review. So we put that safeguard in with the concerns that you had, and obviously on behalf of what we think the residents would want as well, that anything comes there. Nick and I were talking about it earlier. It's a lot different. I know we're concerned about the facial rec. First, Flock, I had that conversation with Flock again after our last phone call, or at least the email, some conversation with them in some form when we talked about that. They have no desire to get into the facial recognition game as of today. Again, technology changes, so they won't make any promises, but they have to have a partner in order to get that technology to them. So they are not permitted access to any of the law enforcement information network database that some of the facial rec is used from by other organizations, which we don't have. We have access to it if we need it, but we don't have our own way of doing it. We have to go through the state and county, I believe it is.
Yeah, I guess my greatest example of it, if you take out the facial recognition, but also some of the technology updates that we spoke about, was these camera systems don't link to the law enforcement information network or the Secretary of State, right? So my best example is anyone that's ever been to Florida, you skip a toll, camera takes a picture of your license plate. Those are state cameras, so those do run with the systems. Flock is a private company, so in order for Flock to be able to run your license plate of ABC123 and say that comes back to Dani Walsh, for example, they would have to have access to the Secretary of State, correct? So the Secretary of State would actually have to go into an agreement with them, which would take some legislation because it would then be state sponsored. So very different than what you would see in like a Florida with the toll cameras. So they can evolve that technology all they want when it comes to linking those systems, but the Secretary of State would have to be on board to actually give them that information. They have no database of that information as of yet. So, and I will say, Stephanie, we do appreciate you sticking to your convictions on this. Yes, so we do not take it personally, and I enjoy that you bring a little color to the board because they're very mute up here today, and I like to express myself in my shirts as well.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
No, I just totally support the Flock, but in Trustee Fakih's defense, I understand in her position with her career, and also there was just a big story, I'm sure a lot of us heard it in the news, a different agency, not ours, and I understand, I feel like we have a wonderful, upstanding department. It would never happen here. But there was a catch of a facial recognition of a woman. They hauled her in and put her behind bars, but they didn't do their due diligence. Somehow she matched a little bit of a facial recognition of the woman they were looking for. This woman was 8 months pregnant. They didn't check any cell phone records. They just went out and said her face matches, and they arrested her and threw her in jail. Well, now it's a huge lawsuit, and that poor woman got thrown in jail. That's the downside of facial recognition, but it wasn't used properly by that department, and that's why we're hearing about it. But
we did have the opportunity.
We don't have facial recognition.
We do not. We have the ability to use it in the event. However, we don't have our own way of, telling, that manner. We would go to the professionals in that manner. We had the opportunity. Detroit has an amazing real-time crime center. I wish every county would fund a real-time crime center based on that. But they walked us through the facial recognition when we were down there. And again, I heard the story. I don't know the specifics of that story. I do know that facial recognition alone cannot be used or should not be used as a sole factor in when deciding to arrest somebody. It is to generate a possible lead or a possible suspect to look into. There has to be, in my opinion, there has to be a lot more. You're taking away you're seizing somebody in the event that you are wrong. And I don't think in our job that you have a place to be wrong when there's other ways to verify things. It may be a tool used, right? But it may not be it shouldn't be the only way that we're doing things. Again, I don't know that case. I don't want to speak on behalf of that agency or without knowing the facts. But in this situation, anybody law-abiding citizen will never know that their vehicle was taken picture of. It's if you've come in and you've committed some type of crime, or you're a wanted person, or you're in a stolen car, we're going to know that. Or if an Amber Alert, especially, heaven forbid that happens, but we know that happened already once with a tragic outcome. So, and that system played greatly into how did that happen. So.
And to Trustee Fakih, just as they're saying that they hold no, obviously none of us do as well, because I think each one of us has been that sole no vote at one point. We absolutely do not require.
I'm no stranger to the single no vote.
Yeah, I think I made my name on it for a while there. So
we know that she supports us.
Yeah, yes. So I just want to also say that I hope that also has come across, that the board would never think that as well, and if nobody should ever feel pressured into doing something against their conscience. So, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Am I allowed to vote on this? I wasn't at the original meeting.
Yes. Yeah.
And another question on that, to keep the thing status quo, do we vote no to this motion or yes to this motion?
If
someone has to make a motion.
Because you already had the motion to reconsider at the last meeting. You voted yes to reconsider. Now the matter is back before you again. So if you want the flock system, you would vote yes.
Thank you.
So we would need somebody to make a motion to either not or motion to support flock.
Make a motion to support the flock system.
Motion by Trustee Barnett, support by Treasurer Kepes.
With just under the same terms and conditions as originally passed at the first meeting.
Right, with all the stipulations.
Right. Thank you.
So we have motion by Trustee Barnett, and second by Treasurer Kepes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay, so that does pass 6-1.
Good. And if I may, Supervisor Walsh, with your permission, to thank Brian as well. I don't think we'll have anything on the next agenda, but his support of our agency has been unwavering for the years that I've been here, and in the years that he's been either a trustee or a treasurer. So we appreciate that on our behalf. But it goes beyond that a little bit for our people you've always been one to either lend an ear or come downstairs. And I heard today you were down learning a few things, but it was just a couple months ago maybe that you were down in the dispatch center asking questions or inquiring to understand and to make impactful decisions based on what for our residents. And we from the police department appreciate that greatly. So thank you for that.
Thank you. It's a privilege to work with you.
Yeah. And Michael, good luck. We look forward to working with you as well, sir.
So next, we have considering approval of the collection of delinquent solid waste accounts resolution presented by Superintendent Horen.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
How's everybody?
Good.
Great.
Each year at this time, as directed by the Bloomfield Township Code of Ordinances, a roll of delinquent accounts is prepared for collection for the solid waste. GFL prepares the roll and sends out a short letter to each of the accounts that are in arrears. Accounts that are past due have until August 31st, 2023 to avoid delinquency. I would like the board to consider approval of the collection of delinquent solid waste accounts.
Any questions?
Yeah, Paul, you mentioned GFL. Are we, is this for the accounts that are in arrears prior to
Correct.
July 1st?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so if somebody owes money from July 1st, that wouldn't be included here.
No, that's priority.
That'd be priority, but like that would be next year.
Some people pay quarterly instead of annually, so it would have been probably the last quarter of GFL that most hit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anybody that owed GFL prior to.
And it could have been the confusion of some people thought, well, now I'm switching to priority. I mean, it may not have been intentional. This will be that last chance to give them the warning.
Yes.
Any other questions? If not, I look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Schostak, support by Treasurer Kepes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. Next, we have consider approval of delinquent water and sewer accounts resolution, also presented by Superintendent Paul.
Hi again, I have everybody. Again, each time this year, as directed by the Bloomfield Township Code of Ordinances, a roll of delinquent accounts is prepared for collection for water and sewer. A final bill and a short letter are sent out to each account that owes more than $100 and is more than 30 days in arrears. Historically, after these final letters are sent out, each delinquent account, approximately about 50% account holders end up paying or making payment arrangements. I would like the board to consider approval of the collection of delinquent water and sewer accounts for the collection of the delinquent water and sewer accounts.
Any questions? And if not, I look for a
Let
motion.
me just say, I think it's important to note that as a community, we don't turn off anyone's water or sewer. So I just want to kind of say that publicly to remind everyone of that. We do expect it to be paid, and we do put it on the taxes, but we don't turn off services
For non-payment, correct? Yeah.
for non-payment.
I mean, there's other
I'm sorry, you're right, for non-payment.
other attempts,
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
that we would have to shut them off, but for non-payment, correct.
And if there's no other questions, I'll
Make
look
a
for a motion.
motion to approve as requested.
Motion by Treasurer Kepes, support by Trustee Barnett. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass.
I would also like to thank Mr. Kepes for his service.
Aw.
Although I've only been working with him for 10 months, it's been an honor to work with you, my friend.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And welcome, Michael, to his position now. It'll be great to work with you for the next.
You will definitely
Thank you, Paul.
enjoy. If you think Noah is fun, Noah and Paul are definitely fun. All right. Well, thank you very much. So next we have consider approval of multi-delinquent special assessments presented by Clerk Martin Brook.
So in the packet is a large collection of documents. These address other types of assessments, specifically the SAD assessments, the Lake Board assessments, SAD assessments for lighting, and then ordinance fines. There's a 2022 for ordinance, and these are items that came up since, after the last deadline for payment, but we're still in last year. And then a 2023 delinquent ordinance, lighting, SAD, lake boards, and road SADs. These are all, what we're asking is for pass the resolution that was in the packet, which authorizes to place the delinquent amounts that exist as of September 30th, 2023 on the tax rolls. So the spreadsheets in the packet are examples of the status today, but are not necessarily what will be in place as of September 30th, 2023. And I also want to note that there are many individuals who choose to not pay the assessments, for lake boards and such, and put it onto their tax rolls for their own strategic reasons, financial reasons. It's not necessarily a delinquency, but that's the story here with these items. And if there's any questions.
Questions? If not, look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee
Support.
Barnett, support by Trustee Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Next, we have approval of payroll and vouchers for August 14th. We've all had a chance to look them over. If there's no changes, I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Schostak,
Support.
support by Trustee Fakih. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. And our last motion,
I move we adjourn.
motion by Clerk Brook to adjourn,
Support.
support by Trustee Barnett. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in 2 weeks.